With the first year of Valorant's franchise leagues halfway over, I decided to look back at the previous era of Valorant. Just a year ago, plenty of orgs flourished with rosters that seemed to come out of nowhere and take the Valorant scene by storm for a Masters event or two. One of the last and most promising of these being North America's Xset, a team full of rising stars that gained plenty of international experience, going to both Masters Copenhagen and Champions Istanbul, where they peaked first overall in NA after defeating a powerful Fnatic team in Champions, and finished top 6 in the world. Fast forward 9 months later and everything has completely changed. This is the rise and fall of North America's forgotten last hope, Xset. Also, I want to thank this video sponsor, buff.game. More about them later. The beginning of this roster starts in the end of 2020, start of 2021, where BCJ, Aryin, and coach Sykko joined at various times to make up the core of the newly formed Valorant team from the Xset eSports org. They never really found much success early on, as they went through a few NA players that never really fit in. The first glimpse of success didn't appear until the North American LCQ in October 2021, where their newest acquisitions, a British boomer by the name of dephh and a twitchy 17-year-old rookie in Zekken, showed signs that there might be a team that could compete under a layer of unrefined team play, finishing in fourth being eliminated by the eventual winners of the tournament, Cloud9. But with the team heading into the offseason, they felt as though they were missing a key explosive piece that put them from maybe top 10 in NA to a top team in the world. This is where the star of the Xset team we think of now enters the story. Pure R leaves and Cryo enters the roster. A rising star that fought his way through ranked and lower tier Valorant to catch the attention of Xset. With him joining the team, this is his first shot at proving he's the real deal and not just some glorified ranked player. And at first they didn't really succeed as a roster. They continued to show glimpses of a top tier team like they did last year, but ultimately couldn't break into the upper tiers of NA Valorant in Stage 1 challengers, falling again to the gatekeepers Cloud9. With one more chance to make a LAN event in 2022, they couldn't miss out on their chance to prove that they belong on the biggest of stages. They started off extremely well, going 4-1 in the group stages of Stage 2, with Cryo abusing the pre-nerfed Chamber, diffing every top player in NA as they ran all the way to the upper finals against the stacked Optic core, right off of winning Masters Reykjavik. If they win this game, they clutch their first Masters appearance of the roster's history. With a loss, they might just be eliminated by a hot FaZe team hell-bent on pulling off an insane losers run. And well, after 4 maps, Xset was forced to take the harder path, losing 3-1, where they lost 11-13 on both Icebox and Ascent. While they're now pushed to the brink of elimination, this proves something to them. If a few events swung in their favor, it could have easily been a 3-0 for Xset. Against FaZe in the lower finals, each map was a nail-biter, and one even going to overtime. After the dust settled, Xset prevailed on the back of Cryo, going 103-6 in 4 maps with an ungodly 31 op kills on Chamber and Jet. They did it. They secured their appearance in Copenhagen, but they weren't done. To also secure their position in Champions Istanbul at the end of the year with circuit points, they had to win this whole tournament. Win against Optic, who never lose rematches. A hard task for any team, but Xset was feeling it now, after facing off against them the first time. After losing map 1 in overtime, they could not be stopped as every member of Xset had their own pop-off moment, with Zekken taking over map 4 on Ascent to help them close out the grand finals with 10 straight round wins. With a bye straight to playoffs in Masters Copenhagen, people started to point out the possibility that they might fall into the same fate as the previous hopes of North America, the Guard, who, in Masters Reykjavik as the rookie team in the event, where they were swept quickly out of the tournament in 2 matches as they played cold, as playing cold against a hot team can burn any roster, especially a team as new to the international stage like Xset. And in their first match in Masters Copenhagen, they got probably the most unfortunate draw, facing Optic again for the 3rd time in the last 4 games. And chalk it up to nerves or just knowing each other's strats so well, but Xset was demolished by Optic, with only really Cryo and Zekken being able to hold their own, as the rest of the team faltered under the bright lights. It didn't get any better as they were eliminated by Leviathans, in a heartbreakingly close overtime in Haven, where it could have gone either way. But now their first taste of international experience is over, with them waiting until Champions. They have one more chance to prove that they aren't some lucky rookies that stumbled into a miraculous run in Champions, and are all players that deserve to be a part of Tier 1 Valorant. In Champions, they were sorted into Group C, not the worst group to be in, with them being one of the favorites to make it out, and were granted a relatively easy first game against Xerxia, that were one of the weaker teams in the event. They were able to take 2 hard-fought maps in a row, with Xset determined to win their first international match, after being embarrassed in Copenhagen. Zekken and Cryo put on a fragging masterclass, while BCJ and Aryin played their roles to perfection, with IGL dephh and coach Sykko breathing fresh strats into the team. They looked good, but now against FPX, the reigning Masters Copenhagen champs, they'd have to play the best they've ever done to even have a chance against this core. On Xset's map pick of Pearl, the most unlikely of heroes put them in the lead, as BCJ on Fade had the game of his life going 24-7. He was unstoppable, shutting down the world's best team again, taking the map in commanding fashion, 13-7, finishing it on a crazy defensive side. FPX was able to punch back hard on their own map pick of Fracture, where they had just been unbeatable all season. This led to another map 3 for qualification into the playoffs. While BCJ was the hero in the first map, everyone in Xset would have to step up. Breeze started and instantly everyone knew that this was not the Xset of old that struggled to take maps off of Cloud9 just a few months ago. Now there are real competitors. Led by a great performance by dephh, they trampled FPX's hopes, winning convincingly 13-5 to move on in the tournament, going undefeated in the group stages, and putting their embarrassing Masters Copenhagen run in the rearview mirror. With that win, they qualified for playoffs, facing off against one of the favorites in Fnatic. And against Fnatic, who was having issues of their own at the time, they kept rolling with the momentum, winning 2-0, where in one of the final rounds in map 2, Cryo and BCJ came up big with a beautiful attacking round, putting the game away. And with that win, they were one step closer to shocking the world and taking home the trophy. But like always, optics stood in their way. Map 1 started off in Optic's favor, winning the first 2 rounds, but once the rifles came out, Xset started to come alive, winning the next 3, overwhelming Optic's defense. They couldn't really be slowed down as they finished their attacking side up 18-4, but there was an uncertainty for Xset going into their defensive side. Last time they played each other on Haven, Xset was demolished on their defense, going down 2-10, with dephh and the team finding no way to stop the insane executes and strats from FNS and Ye. They needed to stop Optic early in the pistol. With the first kill on Victor, all signs pointed towards a win. This is where El Diablo took over, evening the round 3-3, with BCJ tasked in holding back Optic from B. Ultimately, it doesn't work, and Optic take the pistol, which begins the almost unstoppable avalanche that's Optic's attacking side. They were wiped out of the sights every time, losing 8 out of the 9 rounds, falling 1 map down, heading into Optic's playground, Ascent. This was a critical blow, but in the first half of Ascent, they proved that they'll not go down without a fight, putting on one of the best defensive sides of Ascent that we've ever seen against such a tough opponent, leading at halftime 9-3. This was thanks to the amazing site anchoring of Aryin on KJ picking up 16 kills, as well as Zekken getting 4 first kills without a single death. While Optic did put up a fight, Xset finished the job pushing the Reykjavik champions to map 3, Pearl. In the last series against Fnatic, they were able to dismantle them with Cryo's Chamber, as Fnatic had no real way to attack against it. But this is where Optic lil bro'd Xset. Ye and Optic forced Cryo off of the good angles and made him take unfavorable duels with his op, resulting in Optic shattering their defense with an 8-4 half. While Xset bounced back with a nice 4-round win streak to start off their attacking side, once the rifles came out, they could not stop Optic's well-oiled retakes, with the world's most valuable player at the time, Ye, being the tip of the spear against them. They fell on Pearl 13-8, with Optic moving on to the upper finals to face Loud. After that loss, they fell to the losers bracket where they faced off against FPX that learned from their previous mistakes and eliminated Xset from the tournament in 3 maps. While finishing in 6th wasn't ideal, they proved they could stick around in these big tournaments, and if they had more time as a roster, they might make it to a top 3 finish in the major event. But with that loss, their 2022 season was over. During the offseason, it was announced that Xset would be releasing their roster after not making the franchise leagues. So their hope to win a Masters event together was over, but after a great season for them, their entire team was the hottest commodity during the insanity that was roster mania. As the orgs that survived scrambled to pick up core members of Xset, as each player and coach found a home in a tier 1 Valorant team. Orgs hoped that the magic that touched Xset at the end of 2022 would visit them if they attained one of the pieces. And while they weren't able to do it together, the former Xset players were in the perfect spot to become leaders in their own teams and possibly face each other in future events. There's no way every single member of this team would implode within the first calendar year of them parting ways, right? It has been an interesting season for all the members of Xset so far, so let's go through what happened to this roster that was once full of such promise just a moment ago. The player from Xset that survived the best after the team breaking up is also the youngest. At the age of 17, Zekken signed on to play for Sentinels, along with a few other Xset members that we'll talk about later. This honestly makes sense, as on Xset, Zekken was still finding himself as a player, as he was able to sit back in some of the biggest games and let the true fragging star, Cryo, shine as they made their run, and was able to support him in the secondary duelist role. But Sentinel struggled with a revolving door of players whose roles were really hard to establish, forcing Zekken into so many different roles that he was never really able to grow as a player, as the rest of the team had to figure themselves out. It's unfortunate for Zekken that the circumstances surrounding the team ruined his chance to have a breakout year like what felt was almost inevitable, especially surrounded by some of the biggest names in the game. Overall, 2023 hasn't been the year he had hoped for, but with some promising signs coming from Sentinels towards the end of the regular season, LCQ could be a stage where Zekken could shine and finally have his breakout moment. Speaking of a breakout moment, buff.game, the sponsor for this video, provides each gamer their own breakout moment when they join the unique loyalty program that they offer for anyone playing video games. It doesn't really matter which game you play, as once you sign up for free through the link in my description, you'll begin to earn points just for doing what you already do. From there, you can earn in-game skins, player buffs, and gift cards that can make you the most powerful gamer you know. All this just for playing the titles you already love. And don't worry about buff lagging your game. Buff runs silently as a lightweight app that's just there to get you the Valorant gear and benefits you deserve. Also, did I mention that Buff actually tracks your stats as you play, being the true one-stop shop for all your gaming needs? All this is available to sign up for free through the link in my description, which if you sign up in June, you'll be given an extra 77 coins if you sign up through my link. That's an offer of 100 coins to start off instead of the normal 33. So don't miss out on this offer to have your own gaming breakout moment with Buff. From a pretty normal team change to the weirdest that an Xset player has done, Aryin decided over the offseason to move to Global Esports and IGL the ultimate Indian team. When I first heard the news, I was pretty surprised as I actually expected Aryin to go to a tier 2 team like TSM or FaZe. But with his move to the Pacific League, there seemed to be some hope that this Indian org could make some waves with their 10-player rosters. But we know how that went down, finishing 8th in the Pacific at 3-6. This was a hard task for Aryin as he took on the IGL role for this team that was constantly changing their starting roster, making the team lack a lot of consistency throughout the season. While Aryin still played the same role as he did on Xset as the primary smokes player, he didn't have the same caliber of technical skills around him that he had on Xset, which put the team near the bottom of the league. For Global Esports, there doesn't seem to be much hope for them in the Pacific LCQ, as the roster still hasn't found a consistent identity, which of course is the job of the IGL and leadership. Aryin will most likely still be on Global Esports, but there will be major changes after this upsetting season for them. Moving back to the Americas, we look at the road that BCJ has had since leaving Xset, being picked up by Evil Geniuses in November. At the beginning of the season, he was named as a starter for the team in the lock-in tournament, where he played decently as a controller, but gave up too many first deaths, which ultimately hurt the team, and in the second round they were eliminated by a lackluster team in Talon's eSports. He started the first 2 matches in the Americas League, but was benched after they started 0-2, as the brand new pickup of Demon 1 made a better fit for the team as it allowed a better technical player in Juggamo to take over smokes, while BCJ has been playing as the 6th player, not having played in an official match since early April. Pretty disappointing for what was one of the best utility players in the Americas last year. Now onto the leadership and brain of Xset, IGL dephh and the head coach sykko. I'm going to talk about them both together, as together they make up the identity of Xset and what theoretically made them so good. They were both picked up by Sentinels along with Zekken, where they were given the reins to put together the team of their choice. In this choice, they dumped all the former Sentinels players like Shazam and Dapper and replaced them with better Brazil players in Saucy and Pancada. And heading into the season, there seemed to be so much promise in this new and improved Sentinels team. And well, unfortunately, their season started off against the most stacked team in the world, Fnatic, and it was a stomp. Not even close, falling in 2 maps and being eliminated from the tournament before it even started. But after Fnatic went on to win the entire event, people forgot about it and just looked forward to how dephh and sykko would prepare the team for the coming franchise season. They started the season off with a win against 100 Thieves, but after losing games against Leviathans and NRG in pretty convincing ways, a 1-2 2-2 start was unacceptable for this loaded roster, and Sykko was fired from the team. Unfortunately, their roster struggles and team cohesion issues continued as they went 2-5 to start the season, with the team just looking like a complete mess under the leadership of the former Xset IGL. On May 12th, dephh was dropped from the team, marking the quick end of Xset's leadership of sentinels. The team seemed to rebound quickly, making a push for playoffs in the final 2 matches, with consecutive wins and a much more promising look for the team heading into the LCQ. So with sykko and dephh the actual issues for the team? Probably. They were unable to find the right fit for the players they had on the roster, and were unable to find solutions fast enough to not fall so far behind in the league's standings. Now sentinels look to have a promising roster that could possibly make it to champions later this year. Now we land at the star of the team, Cryo. So has he regressed since the chamber nerf while on 100 Thieves? Looking at how Cryo did this season, there were definitely some fall off from the year he had in 2022, but at the end of the season he started to light up the scoreboard and helped carry his team within inches of making it to playoffs. Overall, out of all the Xset members, Cryo has the most hope for the remainder of this season, as 100 Thieves has a real shot at making the Americas LCQ spot for champions, where Cryo could once again prove that he is one of the best in the game and can carry yet another org to the biggest events. If you like this video, then you should also check out my video on the best oppers in the world, where I dig into the stats to prove who's the best in Valorant right now. And sadly, this is before Kang Kang.